Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to your next great experience, the oral exposure, where me and another grown-ass man will give you the best oral experience of your life. My name is X. My guest's name is
Wes?
and we are Oral Exposure. So welcome to our initial podcast. So basically our goal with this is to just talk about a lot of random things that are relevant, things that are not relevant, and things that we're just mostly interested in. And right now, what a lot of people are talking about is going to be the gender reveal party, since it's literally choking up the skies with smoke and plume, and some of us still don't know the gender of the baby. So what we're going to talk about today is just basically we're going to talk about the history of gender reveal party, also whether or not we should have them. Like, is it worth burning down a whole forest to just show the gender of your stupid baby? Okay, all right, Wes. So are you ready for today? Ready to talk about this hugely controversial topic?
First of all, it's absolutely worth it to burn down an entire forest for the sake of revealing the gender of your stupid baby.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously. Yeah.
Of course. Why not?
I mean, like, why not? Your baby's important. Also, it looks like our friend Mitsubachi 2 is already watching the stream. Who is our good friend Aiden.
Whoa. Yeah. Whoa, buddy, you just exposed someone's identity without their consent. Wes, we're like a couple minutes in and we're already breaking rules, man. Come on, let's stick to the original thing. But Aiden, my friend, how you doing? Everyone knows who you are now, so you know there's no going back, my friend. Aiden Mitchell Stork, everybody. All right, so to give everybody a little bit of a background, the fire that's currently being burning right now is in El Dorado, California, and it's burning through about 13,000 acres of land as of yesterday. And that's not the biggest fire that the gender reveal party has ever caused. The biggest fire was in Arizona, where it burned down 47,000 acres of forest for somebody's gender reveal party. I didn't know there were forests in Arizona. I guess there aren't forests in Arizona anymore because they burned it down. but yeah, that's a consequence, man. And I don't know, the baby might decide to change its gender. So like 18 years from now, the baby will be like, yeah, no, I'm not the gender that you burned down the forest for. I'm actually something else in the middle. So basically, number one, I want to ask Wes, Mr. Mandrick, is that are gender reveal parties truly to blame for these travesties, these tragedies? Because it's not just forest burning, right? The body count goes pretty high with this. There is plane accidents where a plane went down because of gender reveal party. There are like bar fights because of that, and there's a grandmother, a to-be grandmother of the unborn baby who died as a result of the parties. So yeah, so Wes, what do you think? Are gender reveal parties truly to blame for these accidents and these tragedies?
So I don't think, like, not in itself, like, gender reveal parties, it's basically just a party on its own. Mm-hmm. Like, it's a little more than like a crazier version of a baby shower.
Oh yeah.
And it seems like that to me. But I don't think they are necessarily to blame entirely, but what is to blame are people going way too far with this sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Before this, I watched a couple of like gender reveal fail videos, and a few of them were really funny. Also, I would like to point out, I spotted one person in the entire compilation that was not white.
Oh, really?
So this is very much a white person thing.
So like minorities haven't gotten the word out yet. Like we haven't like gotten to this ridiculous. There are no Asian people like, we should do that, man. Like, yeah, we're baby, a boy or girl, you know, let's throw a party. Usually, if it's a boy, we just kind of take it as is. If it's a girl, it gets aborted. So, that's. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. We don't do that. To the public, we don't do that. But yeah. That's why Asian people don't have gender reveals. You're a boy or you're an abortion.
Yeah, like, at the same time, like I don't know. I don't think the parties themselves are to blame, but we Americans, we really like to take things too far.
Oh yeah.
And I think this is just the latest example of that. Like, if anything else, it's pretty atrocious that something as harmless, inherently harmless, as a gender reveal party has like gone this far.
Right.
And caused fires, like 47,000 acres.
Right, that's a lot of land.
47,000, and that's at least 1,000 acres.
Right, exactly. And one of the questions that like I wanted to ask, right, was did gender reveal parties kill Bambi's mom? And someone like commented on Facebook that it didn't just kill Bambi's mom, it killed Thumper, it killed like the whole like family. They're dead because of this gender reveal.
It killed my boy Flower, and that's not cool. Like that's the one skunk you're not supposed to fuck with. And
that makes this whole thing not worth it.
No.
But yeah, I completely agree with you though. Like gender reveal party inherently is pretty good because what is it, right? Let's look at what gender reveal party is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I mean, like, it's if that's the way you want to do it. I mean, I understand revealing the gender of your baby is a significant event. Having a baby is a significant event,
right?
And that's a special event in anybody's life,
right? It
should be something special, and if you want to make it special by doing like a surprise reveal of your baby's gender with your loved ones, then go for it. Exactly. There's nothing wrong with that. And a lot of the videos I watched, like the worst thing that happened was like some of the either blue or pink powder somebody gets coated with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Or someone gets like too much glitter on themselves. Like those are like the most mild versions of that. But there were some where like fireworks were causing like people to like get burned and stuff like that. So it's just like that kind of thing. I don't. Again, Americans, we got to turn everything up absolutely to 11. You caused a fire that burned 47,000 acres. Right. Well, I'm going to cause a fire that burns 80,000 acres.
Exactly. We're going to see who can kill Bambi's mom the most, right? Like maybe that deer is not dead. But I think the question we should really ask is not whether or not we should have gender reveal parties, is whether or not we should let these idiots handle fireworks and pyrotechnics and like go up and fly a plane, right? That's the real question. It's because a gender reveal party is just that. It's a celebration of the birth of life. And like you say a lot of things like, Americans blow things out of proportion. I think like any society where you don't have to worry about dying, disease, starvation, things like that, you start trying to celebrate the tiny, minute things of life. You start trying to enjoy life as much as you can because you can, right? It's not a country where like malaria is going to kill you and you're going to get A's accidentally going to a restaurant getting a cut on your hand. So I think it's a great thing. I think it's a great thing that America can have gender reveal parties and we have that luxury. But I also think it's a shame that like idiots ruin this thing for everybody. Because like gender reveal party, like to give everyone a little bit of a history, right? It started off long ago when it's just a cake. You cut into the cake and the cake is either blue or it's pink. If it's pink, it's a girl. If it's blue, it's a boy. And that's how it started. And now we have like fireworks, like you said. Yeah. And we have people flying planes in the air and crashing that down. Like Allah Akbar in another place.
This is just another thing I'm talking about. Like you said long ago, and I'm like, yes, way back in the day in 2008. I believe is when the first when she first did that, and I was like, like it only took us 12 years to start burning shit down. Like,
I'm surprised it took 12 years. Look how far we come in this 1 year. I think 2019 was a long time ago. Like we came from assassinating Soleimani to like a virus that wipes the whole world, and now we're doing protests. Like and it's insane. Like how things can change in this short of time. And I'm really surprised it took like 12 whole years for people to start dying over like some parties. Because what else kills people is like, Greek life is a huge part of colleges, right? And how many students die to rushing on Greek life every single year? So a lot of people, when that happens, a lot of people go, should we have Greek life at all, right? Instead of saying, should we have more safer standards? Let's say, let's get rid of the whole thing. let's get rid of the whole thing. Yeah, now forget about it. Forget about
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
It's you bring up a good point, and when something like this happens with like there's something specifically a gender reveal party goes horribly wrong, and all these fires happen.
Right.
Then that people are like, oh, the gender reveal, that's the problem. That's the thing that caused this. So like, and like, no, that's not really the problem. It's stupid people making stupid mistakes. And you want to say that people like shouldn't have access to some of these objects like fireworks and everything. Fireworks are illegal in a lot of states, by the way. Right. But but still, even with that in mind, like you can't fix stupid. You can't regulate stupid people. And you can, and even if they weren't, even if you can a little bit, but you can't. Not on a mass scale without getting into some really uncomfortable territory.
You can't breathe it out, pretty much.
No, you can't. Especially not here when you're right. We don't really have like there are people in the United States with real problems. I'm not going to try to like understate that or anything. But when you take the United States as a whole and compare it to third world countries or many other even free countries around the world, our problems are not significant. Right. And so we kind of come up with our own stuff. We come up with more problems for ourselves, more things we need to solve, which is a good thing. We should be critical about how things are going. But the result of that is that you have gender reveal parties that go a little bit too far sometimes.
And that's because of stupid people. Like, I'm sure there's some like terrific gender reveal parties that people just had a lot of fun. Nobody got hurt.
It sounds like it'd be stupid, harmless fun. It doesn't sound very fun for me. But like,
I mean, it sounds. I'm gonna be honest. It sounds fun for me because, like, I love cake. Like, I love cake. I like whatever the event is. I don't care what you're celebrating. If you have cake, I'll show up. Like, you can be celebrating something like horrendous. Like, you can be celebrating the apartheid, right? Like, let's have a party to celebrate like the fact that apartheid happened. I'll be like, I'll go. Is there cake? Like, yeah, there's cake. I'll show up. I don't support apartheid. Like, I think it was terrible. But they have cake, man. I love cake. It's just it's harmless fun until somebody does something stupid, and that's a shame too. It's because a few stupid individual will ruin something great for everybody. And
there is something I do kind of want to see. I didn't see this. I saw like a glimpse of this in one of the fail videos of like the gender being revealed and someone being like, "What? A girl? Fuck that! I don't want that." You guys fucked up. This is your fault. And I didn't see anything like that because no adult is going to do that. That's horrible. But I did see a kid who it was two little kids who were getting a baby brother. Yeah. And they cut open the cake and it was blue. And one of the kids started crying because he wanted a baby sister. And I thought that was really cute. But there's something inherently funny about like getting a certain like finding out the gender and just being severely angry and disappointed about it.
I think it would be funny if you can clearly see that like one of the parents is not okay with the gender, but like they have to pretend that they are. It's like, yeah, that's great. It's a boy. Yeah, I wanted a boy.
Yeah, it's a boy. I'm so happy.
That'll be the greatest meme face ever. It's like, oh, I'm so great. But
speaking of memes, sorry, really quick. I did see a meme. I hadn't seen this before of the Septa Baelor being blown up in Game of Thrones with the High Septum, and they just dyed the wildfire pink. And they had like at the end when like Cersei's looking out at the destruction, just like in fucking smoke letters, it's a girl.
Okay, I just want to point out real quick that we just broke the language barrier. There was 3 fucks in that sentence just now. Like that's what the show is. Okay, now we just broke the 18 barrier. Like we put up the 18 barrier. There's a great wall now that under 18, like you can't do. I'm just kidding. It's totally okay to say fuck. Hey, we're all adults over here. Like Aiden, the one person that's watching right now, is totally okay with us saying that. Might get us in trouble later. But let's get back on a little bit of a topic. So basically, I looked it up, and so we already talked about this actually. We both touched on this, and like one point, like on one side, the gender reveal party is so bad because of stupid people, but on the other side, I feel like the crowd is also responsible for how we're reacting to it. What I mean by that is social media and like the cancel culture and the media itself, like the actual legit media. And so I was doing a little bit of research, and I went on The Guardian, and what they said is that they listed all these atrocious things that happened because of stupid people at gender reveal parties. And then they said gender reveal parties are a form of domestic terrorism. terrorism. So I just wanted to ask Wes, like, do you agree with that? Do you think gender reveal parties, in some forms, like in some cases, can be defined as domestic terrorism?
No.
All right, all right.
No,
Moving on to the
and
next question. I'm just kidding.
No, and the reason for that is because, all right, shitty things happen, and obviously, I don't think anybody did the gender reveal part. If it did, this is a weird way to do it. I don't think anybody hosted a gender reveal party with the intent of starting a wildfire and having this happen. I think this is a horrific accident, a stupid accident, and shouldn't have happened.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I don't think it was done with lethal intent at all. And that is kind of the point of a terrorist attack or a terrorist demonstration. Is it's supposed to scare people and get people to pay attention and that kind of thing, and or scare your political opponents or religious opponents or something like that.
Exactly.
And I really don't think that's what's happening with gender reveal. Like the fact that the Guardian, did the Guardian actually say that and call it?
Legit, they're like their title, like their main thing before you click into the article is gender reveal party a form of domestic terrorism? That's their title. Yeah.
Okay, so they at least just asked the question. They didn't say it was that.
Well, here's the thing though. A media such as The Guardian putting domestic terrorism and gender reveal party in the same question, they don't have to say it. They don't have to give an opinion. And that's a form of like media manipulating the crowd, right? Like when there's a police shooting, like somebody could say, is this like motivated by racial tension? If somebody says that, then the first thing they're going to think is that, man, this is because of racial tension. Same thing with the gender reveal parties, is that if they say gender reveal party burned down like a whole forest, they'd be like, oh man, that sucks, some people are stupid. But if the title is gender reveal party a form of domestic terrorism, the first thing that's going to pop to a reader's head is that, is it a domestic terrorism? Whereas before they wouldn't have that thought at all. So it's...
A lot of people. Yeah, you're right. No, a lot of people who just read the titles of articles are just going to think that. You're absolutely correct.
Exactly. It's like, don't think of an elephant, and you're going to think of an elephant, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Don't look down. You look down.
Right, exactly. You're going to want to fucking look down.
Thanks for the thumbs up, Linda Zhu. I think that's how you pronounce her name. Linda
Zhu. I got to teach you some Chinese here.
Okay.
Yeah, Linda Zhu. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for your
support. Thanks for the thumbs up. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, awesome. Basically, like the one thing I see with cancel culture in the media is that number one, like cancel culture is from the crowd, right? It's from social media. But on the other hand, we have like legit actual media that are trying to like make the narrative in a certain way that it evokes anger and terror. And what evokes terror and anger more than anything else in America, especially, is terrorism. Right? Yeah, is because that's the thing we're hit with. So I think they're causing the problem. I think if they didn't report the story this way, if they didn't put it this way, and if a lot of people, if nobody said this, then no one would be hating on gender reveal parties. Maybe a small group of people, but not the traction that it's currently getting, where everyone's saying cancel gender reveal parties. They're evil. They're domestic terrorism.
No, I think you're absolutely right in that. And I think about how many hits that Guardian article probably got because of that title.
It's the Guardian.
Just because, people are going to immediately think like, hey, this is a real problem if they see an article title like that. You're absolutely correct.
Oh yeah.
So I obviously I don't think that gender. If anybody you were to ask any educated person, or any like sort of even mild free-thinking person, are gender reveal parties terrorism, I don't think they would actually say yes unequivocally.
I think they do more than that. Yeah.
I hope not, but I have a naive view of people, so maybe not. That article obviously exists, and people who burn down forests accidentally with gender reveal parties exist. So my view of humanity is obviously a little bit skewed.
Yeah, it's okay. Honestly, I think the view of humanity is what we need in this world, because with all that's going on in the world right now. But the second thing is like, so let's say like 1,000 people read that article, right? That's on the very, very low end. There's probably like tens of thousands of people reading. If even 1% of people believed that gender reveal parties are a form of domestic terrorism, those people will spread it to their neighbors, and like more people. There's going to be a group of people in the U.S. now that are going to think gender reveal parties equal like 9/11. Like, so that's what we're gonna think right now. It's because of this article. And the second thing, so that's number one, right? Like, we can't control media is because they exist to sell themselves. Like, with the title, like you said, with the title "Domestic Terrorism" equivocated to gender reveal, they're gonna get a lot more clicks. But on the other end of that, right, it's because it's not just all them. Like, there's a group of people that enable them, and they're called, us, the social media, the cancel culture people, the PC crowd, the PC principle. So I just wanted to get your opinion on that real quick. So nowadays, like, if you say anything against like the grain, against the popular opinion, you get canceled. Like, a lot of people shout you down, and then you lose your job, and then you can't show your face in society for about 3 months until everyone stops caring about the current issue that you're in trouble in.
Yeah.
So I just want to ask your opinion on it, man. What do you think about cancel culture? Like, is it good? Is it not bad?
I'm not a fan. That's for sure. I mean, like, I mean, there are definitely some people with some pretty horrendous opinions out there, and something that but I don't think that anything's not worth discussing, and that's the problem with cancel culture, is that there's no discourse, there's no discussion.
Right.
There's no chance to confront an individual about why they may feel a certain way on both ends of the spectrum.
Confrontation is important.
Yeah, and there's no confrontation. The confrontation begins and ends with "shut up, you're wrong," and "get out of my life."
Exactly. It's the wrong type of confrontation.
And that doesn't solve anything. If anything, that's just going to reinforce their beliefs. If you're conservative and you think liberals are a bunch of fucking stupid people, and you say that, and then liberals say, "Shut the fuck up, get out of my face," and never talk about it, then
nothing is
there's not going to solve anything. It's just going to reinforce the conservative person's viewpoint. Now, granted, the conservative probably shouldn't open with, "I think liberals are a bunch of fucking stupid people," but that might not be the best example. But the point is being made that there has to be discourse, there has to be discussion, like we're discussing right now. If you can't talk to somebody about these things, then there's no solving any of these problems. Everybody just retreats into their corners and retreats with their people in their own little meat space, and then, or cyberspace rather, and then just talks, and then they just reinforce their opinions. No, there's a similar phenomenon with people who believe they were abducted by UFOs, and they're like
explain.
But like that is a subculture of people who like believe they were abducted.
I didn't know it was a culture. I didn't know there were enough people who think that.
There's a lot of people, but they have. I'm not sure if they do this anymore, but there's a subculture of these people that actually like get together in therapy sessions and are like help sessions to like get themselves through that.
Wow.
But really what these therapy sessions do is just reinforce the idea that you were abducted by an alien. And so it just further implants that idea into your mind that you were abducted by aliens. And so there's no actual therapy. It's just, hey, we were also abducted by aliens, and we're also crazy. Want to come be crazy with us?
Yeah,
but nobody ever questions it because there's no outside opinion influencing it.
Yeah, exactly. They're enabling each other. It's a group of people enabling each other's opinion, right? Like at one point, they don't want to hear other opinions. They don't want to see like the whole picture. They just want people to say that you're right because I think the same thing. So that means you're not an idiot. And I can understand that. I can understand that. But like we have to look at like
validation is important for sure, but still,
it's something we all need. But like it's good and bad, right? It's like drinking. A little bit's good, but a lot's like it could be good or it could be very bad.
Moderation. Yeah,
right, exactly. And here's the thing. Like I just want to put a different perspective on that because like I agree completely with what Wes said. There needs to be dialogue, and the confrontation cannot be cancel culture. Confrontation has to be let's start a dialogue. So like the one thing that like is pretty close to me is just racism, right? So a lot of people, what they do now, what everyone does, the mob on the internet, what they do is that they see a racist person and they berate them. They try to destroy their life. They try to like rip them apart so that they're trying to pretty much use fear to instill people like in this thought that you shouldn't be racist. But here's the thing. No racist ever changed their opinion because somebody shouted at them. And we can all kind of sympathize with this is because, we looked at our parents and when we're kids, we do something we think we're right. And our parents are like, you're dumb. You shouldn't do that. That's irresponsible. Like, how dare you? You're grounded for a month. And what do we think when we hear them say that? We think, well, you're wrong. You're not thinking from my perspective. I'm just going to be very, very mad for a while and I'll keep doing that one thing, right? It's a natural rebellious thing because you're not the boss of me. Even though you gave birth to me, you're the reason I exist. you're not the boss of me. I'm gonna think like myself. And the only times that I really like did listen to my parents is that they sit me down and they ask me like, why did I do this? Right? I played computer for so long, but why? It's like, well, I really enjoyed the game. It's like, well, they give me a perspective on why that's good and bad, and then we can start a dialogue, and then I have a chance to understand it. But if they just shout me down, if they just use their authority on me, and they try to like bully me into doing what they want to do, I'm not gonna do it. Right? It's natural.
Yeah, no, it's the same thing. Well, we were talking about this the other night too, where there's on the opposite end of that spectrum. You have the people who are like just who are just shutting down racists immediately and not giving any modicum of discussion. And there's this really like Hollywood idea from like movies like The Green Book, or Crash or anything like that, where it's just like, if you just spend enough time with the other race, with the minorities, then you won't be. I'll be the racist dragon, and suddenly Albie wasn't so racist anymore.
Right. Exactly. I mean, like when you say it like that,
there is that other side that it's like, well, obviously that's not going to happen either, but there has to be like this kind of middle ground where discourse and discussion needs to happen. And so the cancel culture is not a solution, and neither is I'll be the racist dragon or The Green Book.
Right. Actually, I have a funny story to share with you with that. Like a lot of people will think that's unrealistic. A lot of people think that's preachy. I personally had like a little experience like that before. So
I'm not saying it can't happen. It's just very unlikely. Yeah.
I know. I just want to share this story real quick, just so people get a perspective on this. So basically, I worked in Georgia for a while. Georgia's deep south. The culture there is not as diverse as before, except if you're in Atlanta. So basically, I worked in Georgia for a while, and for a while I worked for DirecTV. I sold for those guys, and then my job was to be in the middle of Sam's Club, and every day I talked to 100 white people to try to sell them DirecTV. And like, since it's the South, I run into my fair share of people who have their own opinions about like minorities, such as myself. And one time I was trying to sell this guy like a 2-year contract. I was trying to screw him out of a lot of money, basically. And he got mad at me, which he should, but he got mad at me because like, oh, I heard about your chinks before, like you're Chinese, right? Like, but here's the thing, he wasn't angry when he said it. Like, he used the word chink is because for him it doesn't mean anything offensive. He has no idea what that means. And to be honest, like as an Asian person, I don't hear that word a lot, so it doesn't really mean a lot to me. It's not like the N word for black people, right? Because there's a history to that. For us, like the first time I heard somebody say chink was I was in America for like 5-6 years before someone said that. So it's not a popular phrase. But basically that guy has an opinion for Asian people, and I just pretty much talked about it. I stopped trying to sell him DirecTV, and I just had a good conversation with him. And I was like, what's up, man? Why do you think that? And he explained to me why. And I was like, oh, cool, yeah, like I totally understand where you're coming from. Like, I understand why you think that. I don't blame you at all. And then like I didn't try to convince him to like Chinese people, but just because I listened to him, and then like he had this conversation with me, like for the first time in his life, he conversed with a Chinese person, and it's like, you know what, you're all right. I didn't try to say like Chinese people are good. Not at all. I just listened to him, and in the end, he's like, you're good, you're all right. And then I signed him up for a 2-year contract for DirecTV. So who's the real winner?
The real winner is capitalism.
Exactly. We got the narrows in the is the one who wins. Yeah. There's a dialogue, right? Most people are racist. They don't know what it is, and like you're right. If you berate them, they'll only think that they're right more. Is because when someone else has a different opinion, all they did is make them feel shitty about themselves. That's the main thing. I think cancel culture at one point, I think it comes from a good place. We can't deny that. Cancel culture comes from a good place. Racism is bad. We should get rid of it. But this is not the right way. I don't think so.
And that's kind of the worst part about it, is that it comes from a place of good.
Right, exactly.
At least in concept, like, accepting people and loving people for who they are instead of the color of their skin, gender, sexual orientation, or whatever is a great goal.
Yeah.
But the way you're going about doing it, you got to slow down, and you got to be like, okay, Dave. Again, to bring up Dave Chappelle, I think Dave Chappelle does a really good job talking about stuff like this. Mm-hmm. I won't go into it now because we got to stay on topic. But we should just do eventually an episode about talking about Dave Chappelle.
Dave Chappelle?
I'd just be down.
I do. We should just do one about our comics, because there's a lot of people who have the same thing. Mm-hmm. Dave Chappelle is the most eloquent, like one of the most.
Dave Chappelle is going to take up 30 minutes of the 40 minutes to do that, though, I promise.
Oh, yeah. That's totally fine. Yeah, and it's like, it brings it back to like the old saying, right? Like, because there's a goal, but how are we going to get there, right? Because I think we've seen a lot of movies, right? We've seen Avengers Infinity War, where someone tries to do something good, but the way they try to get there is terrible. Like, you can accomplish world peace by killing everyone in the world, and so there will be no wars. Technically, definition speaking, you would have world peace. There'd be no conflict, but you would also kill everybody in the world, right? So you accomplish your goal, but how do you get there? That's the main thing. So I think like eventually we're going to get to a point where racism is a very, very small thing. It's going to exist, but it's going to be very small. But to get there, I don't think we're currently on the right path. I think we're just going through some frictions where people are trying to change things in their own era, right? I'm living here now. I'm going to change society because it's my society. But I think what a lot of people don't realize is that you need time for that. You need generation to adapt, right? Because in the 1950s, 60s, you had Jim Crow, and everyone thought it was okay for black people to not eat in white restaurants or go to white bathrooms. And that's like everybody who thought that, they're not like racist, they're not terrible people. It's just that was the norm. But how did that change, right? Every generation they had different rules, and then they had different upbringings, and eventually we come to today, which some people still say is a racist society. Sure, you can say that, but it's a lot better than a couple of decades ago, a couple of generations ago. Yeah.
I agree with you do need to make some movements to affect change for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's why the Civil Rights Act is a thing. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's not necessarily going to change everybody's minds. Again, to bring up Dave Chappelle about that, what he talked about, the Civil Rights Act was in 1964. Someone called me the N-word in traffic last Wednesday. Like, I mean, it's that kind of thing is like, it's going to be a long road to get there, and it's not going to happen in our lifetimes probably, but
it'll get better.
It'll still get better. There needs it's rough because there needs to be kind of like this balance between the activism to support this kind of thing, and then the just letting things kind of take their course and conversing with people.
Oh yeah.
But right now it's a little bit too much this way. Mm-hmm. And so nobody's listening to each other because it's all just based on whose side you're on.
Exactly.
And that's, nobody,
you see the logic too. Like, you see the logic. It's because most people are being driven by their emotional aspect instead of logical aspect. Everyone wants to stand for a cause. That's the thing. It feels great to be part of a cause. Like, it gives meaning to your life, and that's what people are trying to do. They're like, I'm here in this society to inform change. I'm here to make someone else's life better. And how am I going to do that? Like, most people are not going to sit down and do diplomacy. That's not our natural reaction. Our natural reaction is to beat the other person down if they don't agree with you. It takes real strength of character to say, I want to sit down with someone who just stands for everything that I'm against, and then I'm going to talk to him. It takes a lot to do that, and that's why it's hard, and that's why it's not going to happen anytime soon. Right?
I don't like doing it. I don't.
Me neither. But, I would love to just put that guy in a headlock and be like, agree with me, bitch. Yeah.
I commend you for talking to that guy at the
I was trying to make money. He had money that I could make.
You had that other incentive too. But I'm still saying, like, if I can't imagine, when someone's racist to white people, it's a very different thing. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter in the same way to me. Like, if someone doesn't like me for being white, I'm like, all right, well, fine, I guess.
It's like, but I'm white though. I know you're trying to make me feel bad, but why?
Yeah.
Why should I feel bad for being white?
So I can't really put myself in that position exactly. But I can imagine that if someone was like that casual about it, I'd be like, what the fuck, dude? Like, I would not have handled it the way that you did, I don't think.
It's okay. I mean, it's the fact that he was casual about it. But because if he was angry and he was like, looked at me and was like, you goddamn chink, and he threw some shit on my head and he walked away, I'd be like, whoa, that guy has some deep-rooted hatred. But like for this guy, like for him, what he said to me, for him it was normal. Like, he didn't say out of place of anger. He didn't have like this deep hatred towards Asian people. It just, he doesn't know any Asian people. All he knows of Asian people are what other people said. And this guy lived through like the Vietnam War, the Korean War, like things like that. So like, what's in his mind? Oh, at one point we killed a bunch of these guys. So it's just a lack of education. And like, from talking to just like a simple 20-30 minute conversation with like an Asian people where he doesn't even talk, where I just listen to him, you can just like, you know what? Like, you're sort of just a dude. You're just a dude, man. Like, and we're not that different except for your eyes and like your hair and like everything else. But he's able to get perspective about that. You know what I mean? Like,
we're not that different except for the parts where we definitely are different.
Exactly. We're the same except for where we're not, but we're the same. if we look at it,
now we got to do a new segment where we just talk. It's going to be, hey, today talk to a racist.
Yeah.
See how they feel.
I
Try
don't
to
recommend
convince
that.
them otherwise. No.
I don't recommend people doing that because
Don't
there
do
have
that.
been people who did that and died, and I don't want that on my conscience. Like,
No,
I don't care
no.
that much about like equality in society to have someone die. For it. Like, it's okay. If there's equality, but everyone still lives, like I'm okay with that. That's just me. I know not everyone's gonna think that way, but for me, I'd rather everyone just live than do anything else with it. And slowly we'll make some differences. But yeah, I feel like we talked about this cancel culture like enough. Let's get back on topic to gender reveals, right?
So gender reveal parties,
to gender reveals. Actually,
what we're actually here for.
Exactly what the title says, right? Like, did Bambi's mom get killed by gender reveal party? I mean, the second thing, so a lot of people say gender reveal parties shouldn't happen. Well, number one is because of the forest fire and all the accidents. But number two is that we shouldn't adhere to a system of binary genders, is that gender shouldn't be binary, so that you shouldn't have gender reveal parties at all because you're forcing your kid to lock into something, right? Even though biologically you would define them as male or female, but you shouldn't define them anyways because they can't choose for themselves yet. So I want to get your opinion on that real quick, and it's a little bit of a dangerous territory, so, you know, however you want to say it, you can. We'll just see how much balls you have, my man. Will you tell us your true opinion, or will you flounder around like the rest of these snowflakes?
You know what? The whole gender reveal thing. I mean, I think that, like we said with the time thing, like with things getting better with time, with racism and that becoming more of a thing of the past, the more we progress into the future. Right. I think that kind of holds true for the gender thing. So there may be a point where gender reveal parties, we're going to look back on that and be like, what the fuck were we thinking? For the time being, you know, non-binary people, trans people, gender neutral people, all that kind of thing. They all have their own take on it. And well, a lot of them discover that about themselves early on in life. I had a friend recently who came out as trans like earlier this year, who's our age. And they didn't know until like a little bit earlier this year.
Right. You make people change. People change drastically in a single moment.
So I don't think the gender thing is. Let me put it this way: this is kind of weird because you wouldn't decide at the beginning, before your child's even born, that my child will be a doctor or my child will be a.
Yeah, you're talking to the wrong person about that, my friend.
I know.
My career path was chosen long before I was conceived, so much like many of my people.
But it is the same. It is the same kind of thing, though. Obviously, free will exists, and the idea of changing yourself exists. So you wouldn't necessarily decide your gender or your career or your friends or anything else about your child as an individual before they are even born. Gender is something that is physically there and can be measured before birth, and so I don't think that's necessarily a problem. As long as I don't think the gender reveal thing is necessarily a problem, as long as you're okay with. Once your child has a mind of their own and believes that they are a different gender or non-binary or trans or whatever, then you're open to that. Because I don't think that in itself is like harmful to anybody. Because you're not necessarily embarrassing the child or anything like you.
I get what you mean. I get exactly what you mean.
Yeah, there are some sensitive people out there. But especially with my friend who came out like that earlier this year, my perspective on this has drastically changed, especially because of who I knew them as before. And it's just something that it's such a complicated issue that I don't think, like I said, I think this is something that will just be solved in time. I don't think.
So actually, in terms of whether or not it's a complicated issue, I actually don't think it's that complicated. I think it's very simple, and I think people make it complicated. through cancel culture and PC culture. So basically, what it is like, and you actually touch upon what I believe is completely right, is that gender like exists in terms of biology, right? You have a penis or you have a vagina, and by medical terms, you're a male or female, and that exists. But I think what happens is that people are way too sensitive when there are a certain population of people that exist who are gender fluid or non-binary, and so all of a sudden they say, well, let's make sure those people never get hurt, so we're going to change the whole thing, the whole picture. No one's gonna have gender assigned because of this group of people. And I think it should be the opposite. It should be everyone starts out, right, and you can do whatever. If your parents want to assign your genders, do it. If they don't do it. And then eventually when you get older and you're like, I don't want to be a boy anymore, I want to be a girl, or vice versa, you can't do that. I think people assign too much value in the assigning of genders. So basically, I think it's a great thing. So I think if parents want to celebrate that they have a boy or girl, I think it's a great thing. It's a celebration of life. And number one, you were celebrating an aspect of that. It was like, we have life, and this life has a penis attached to it, or it has a vagina attached to it. Like, that's great. That's okay. They're different. Let's celebrate them in a particular way. And then, like, when this kid gets older, and all of a sudden, it's like, even though I have a penis, I feel like I identify as a girl. Go ahead, go for it. Like, that's great. And what people are saying now is because some people choose to identify as a different gender later, you shouldn't assign them to a gender now, which I think is pretty dumb. Is because when you have gender reveal parties, it's not about the baby. It's about the parents celebrating the fact that they created life. It's about the parents, and it's not about the baby. And then when the baby grow up and they know how to think for themselves and they want to change it, let them change it. Like, no problems with that, right? Like, just because before you're a boy, like, I mean, it makes a lot of things easier, man. Like, if you just assign gender to a baby in the beginning, you know what clothes to buy, you know what toys to buy, you know which bathroom to send them in, you know if you can't bring them to the male bathroom or like female bathroom. Like, it gives a sense of order to it. And I think it's just, it's convenient, and that's why a lot of people do it. But I think people overreact to a simple assignation, right?
And I think that's kind of part of the problem, is that the whole multiple genders sort of thing has not been in the cultural know for very long.
Mm-hmm. Is it 10 years old?
It's been around for centuries,
right?
But the
movement,
the main of the culture,
right,
knowing about transgender people and like actually having something of an informed opinion about them,
right,
is basically like maybe 2 decades old. If you weren't already in that subculture,
right.
So it's just I do get your point, though, that it is just kind of something that's to me, it's arbitrary. And the things that make you a person aren't your gender, sexual orientation, or your race. It's just who you are as a person. It's not something I look for when I'm going to make friends. I'm like, you know what? I'm missing. I have a Chinese friend. I have a Korean friend. I don't have a Thai friend. I should probably look for a Thai friend now. I have a lot of straight friends. I have a couple gay friends. I don't have any bisexual friends. Maybe I should go look for a bisexual. Yeah. I gotta fill my quota here. Right. I don't think that's how the human experience works. And as much, I mean, it just kind of happens culturally. It just happens to be that a lot of my friends are white. That's just because of where I grew up.
Exactly. And in America, it's mostly white people. So,
and that's just where I grew up. It's not because, I hate other races or anything like that. It's just because I grew up largely around white people.
Exactly. But there'll still be a group of people, though, who says, because most of your friends are white, that you are racist. There are people who are sensitive like that. And those are the same people that say if you assign gender to a baby, you're a fascist. Like, they exist, man.
And I don't think that's necessarily a problem. I think if you're saying that, my son is a male and he's always going to be a male and he came out as trans, but he's not really trans, then I think that's when you get into fucked up territory. Right. But just saying before your baby's even born that, hey, my child is a male or female, I don't think that's inherently evil. I think that's just something that everybody does.
It's biological and it's traditional. Like, since the beginning of time, we know the difference between male and female, and this is something lasted till now. And it might be different later, though. Like, that's the thing. That's not always the case. So the next question I want to ask you, Wes, is that seeing how we're all right now with PC culture, cancel culture, with like gender binary, gender fluid, all these different classifications. What do you think about the future? And I'm talking about like way after we turned into dust and dirt. We're talking about like centuries from now, even 1,000 years from now. How do you see the future be like? Do you think there will be no genders? Or do you think everyone will just stop caring so much about genders?
Shadows and dust, Maximus. Shadows and dust.
We're all gone from this world now, but the spirit's looking down from above. That's our descendants. What do you think, man?
No, the gender. I said this just a second ago. I don't care really about your sexual orientation, your gender, your race. I just care about you as an individual. I don't care what culture you're from. If I care only that if your self-identity is defined by your being transgender, and that is your identity, is you are transgender, then I don't really have interest in you as a person.
Okay.
You know?
Because there's nothing to be interested in.
There's nothing else to talk about. If that's how you define yourself, and I don't, like, when I'm talking about, if I had to like describe myself, I had to say like, I think my being white would be like way down on the list. I'd be like, I like Dungeons and Dragons, I like video games, I like reading, I like
exactly.
I like all this stuff. Like I have like list my hobbies and interests, and talk about my many posters in my room and everything like that. But and then like, oh yeah, and I guess I'm white. That's I'm I'm overweight. I'm 26 years old. There's that.
That's a funny situation. I just had this image of like, so you introducing yourself to a group of people. It's like, hi, my name is Wes. And they're like, oh, tell me a little bit about yourself. And you're like, I'm white. And you just sit down. It's just,
like, hi, I'm Wes and I'm white.
And I'm white. And everyone's like, yeah, nothing. All right.
And that's it.
That's it. It's your whole identity.
What do you like to do for fun? I'm white.
Right, I like being. I'm white for fun. You know, it's like
I really enjoy just being white. You know,
exactly.
There's nothing better.
It's hard to argue against that, man. But basically, let's bring it back to the question though. Is the way you just said? No, it's good. It's actually, I think what you said is relevant to the question. Is that like people ultimately don't want to define themselves by their gender or race. So in the future, like thousands of years from now on, do you think people will think more of what you just said? Like nobody will care about gender or race, and it can exist or cannot exist? Or are we going to have a society where there's no gender? A baby is born like, it's a baby, stamp baby, right? If you say it's a male, we're going to drag you off, we're going to execute you, or like we're going to tase your balls or something like that. So what do you think is going to be like the future, like thousands years from now?
I would hope that kind of thing doesn't matter as much. I don't think the concept of gender will go away.
Oh yeah.
Because evolutionarily we kind of need that, but I don't know. I mean, it'd be interesting to see where we are thousands of years from now with that kind of thing. I don't think people will care as much about it. Here's the thing: is that we still have to keep in mind that we are not that far off from the civil rights movement. Yeah. Like my dad was born 10 years before the civil rights movement. Right. The Civil Rights Act was ratified in 1964. He was born in 1954. Yeah. Like he remembers that time a little bit.
Like, so he would be 10 like when I started off, right?
Yeah, he'd be 10. So like he lived through that.
Yeah. Jim Crow's not like a thing of the past. Like it's not that much of a history. Yeah.
No, we have so many people who are alive today that remember that, and there are a lot of people who still live in the shadow of stuff like that. And that's very much a real thing. So I think it would be unrealistic to think that things won't get better. I think things will get better, and I think the concept of race, gender, sexual orientation, very circumstantial things at birth. I think I hope, because of the way I think of humanity as a whole, I think that things will get better and it won't matter as much. Yeah. I want people to care about the individual. And that to an extent, our generation, at least the people I tend to associate myself with, are kind of already like that. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, obviously, you know, when I met you, you just made me laugh in class, and I was like, this guy seems like fun. And so I came up to you, like, you just said some things, and I couldn't fucking pronounce your name, and I was just like, I guess like that. Like, okay, if we want to go like back to what I said earlier, I guess in that very granular, basic sense, I did pick you as a friend because you were Chinese.
It's different, right? It's interesting. Something that,
but it's not like I needed a Chinese friend. I was like, I want to learn how to say this guy's name, and he made me laugh. That was the thing.
Exactly, and that's okay. Like a race definitely has something to do with that, but that's totally okay. You explained it, and nobody can blame you for that, right? Nobody can say, you're a little racist because race was involved in your decision of picking your friends. So
not even race. It was just a culture thing. Like that
exactly. It was just different, right? Like, that's what racism is. It's a reaction to something that's different, and you can do bad or good. And if it's bad, you call it racism.
Exactly. And if I don't like you as a person after figuring out how to say your name, which I still haven't figured out,
it's cool. I just go by X.
But when I call you X, everybody calls you X, so it's fine. But basically, if I don't like you as a person after those first couple of like hangouts, I would have like not hung out with you. I would have stopped hanging out with you. Exactly. Like, but obviously that didn't happen. I was just like, this guy seems cool, and I was right. Now we've been friends for since middle school. So
God, it's been so long.
Upwards of 10 years for sure. It's like
14 years. 13
or 14 years. We've been friends forever.
The middle school was like 2000, which just exposed our age right here. Yeah, middle school was like 2006.
Well, I said I was 26 earlier too, so.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, that's so young, man. Come on, you're never gonna get girls. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But I think asking this question and seeing how you responded to it kind of like highlights you like as a person. You lean towards optimism. Like you lean towards optimism for sure. It's because there's no right answer to that. Like nobody can predict the future. An optimist would have said what you said, and a pessimist would have said something like, no, the future is going to be a lot more like a lot more sensitive to this stuff than before, because there's just going to be like people are just inherently bad. But like I myself I lean towards optimism as well, and I think what you think. I think eventually people are going to realize that there are bigger issues at hand here. I think like when people haven't solved like diseases and world hunger, and you're arguing about like small things like gender reveal parties, like number one, you don't have a big enough scope of the world. I think like in terms of like communication, I don't think we're there yet. I think there's a very good communication right now, but most people would not pay attention to like huge amounts of people that are dying of starvation, like in areas in the world, like even in the US. I'm sure like there's some people who would like go hungry like every night, and some people would die from that. So I think there's more important questions, and I think as the world develops, as our like technology get better and people communicate more, and we can see very clearly the suffering that people are truly experiencing in other places. I think at that time we'll forget about the small things and we'll just not care about it, because a society that's truly gender fluid and like non-binary would not care if you assign genders to people or not. And a society that's truly not racist doesn't mean people won't say racist things. Racism is going to exist. It's how much people care about it. So basically, someone calls Dave Chappelle the N-word on the subway, right? And I think this goes to show our society is a lot better than before. Like a lot of people are like, okay, cool, yeah. I mean, that guy's an asshole, right? And that should be what it is. But like a society that has a prevalent racism problem, they would hear someone calling another person like the N-word, and they would freak out. They'd be like, we need to take that guy's freaking job away, right? Instead of saying that guy's just an asshole, don't worry about him, like like his boss, if he doesn't like it, you'll just fire him, because I actually think it's a shame that some people, because of their own like opinions, they would lose their job and things like that. Because like if you're a good worker, if you do well at your job, you should keep that job, and what you think about things like shouldn't affect that. I think this should be completely separate, church and state. But right now we have such a prevalent like racism problem that people are overreacting to it. So I hope in the future, right, that people, like, racism exists, people are still going to call Dave Chappelle the N-word 1,000 years from now on, but just nobody will care about it. It's like, okay, that guy's an asshole. But
I think it's kind of a thing that like I see what you're saying. It'd be kind of like the way that you and I and all of our friends hang out.
Exactly.
Like we constantly like there's a certain absurdity and a certain like comedic fun, and just all of us hanging out and pointing out the very obvious things, like physical, very surface little circumstantial things that are wrong with us or that are about us, and just like saying those things, and just and obviously we don't mean them at all. It's just that it's funny to point it out because it's obviously we don't think that about each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even that. It's that we don't have a sense of hatred when we say those things. It's not like we point out something. It's like, oh, Sam, you're Korean. You got your eyes are all fucked up. We don't actually think that. We're not coming from a place where like we're trying to make that person feel like they're worthless, right? And Sam knows that because we're all friends. We know like behind everything else, behind all the jokes, we cared a lot about each other. Like I would take a bullet for a lot of my friends, not all of them, but like a lot of them, I would probably stand in the way. And you know, not that it would kill me, like it would get my shoulder. You know what I mean? You know, I'm not.
I don't think I would take a bullet for Sam. No, I don't like him very much.
Yeah, screw it. Yeah, it's because of his fucking eyes. We
love you, Sam.
See, that's the way we joke though, and Sam knows that. Like,
exactly.
Totally take a bullet for him. Yeah, like totally maybe. Like you were definitely maybe, man. Like,
totally maybe.
Same thing with you. Wes, I want you to know, and if Aiden's still watching, I would want you guys to know, I would totally maybe take a bullet for both of y'all. And that's.
I would also consider putting my life on the line for you guys.
Oh, thank you. Just the fact that you say that, it's amazing. It's great. I think that's what it is, because I think it's a shame that like racism and gender stuff, like you can't joke about that, because that's funny, man. Like I love racist jokes, man. When they're in good taste, they're so funny, and I think it's a shame people get canceled over telling a race joke.
Well, and I think that's kind of expressed in how tired people get of this sort of thing. Is that shows like South Park exist, people like Dave Chappelle exist.
Oh yeah.
Like it's not like it's unheard. It's not like we're the only ones saying this. There's a big culture that is just like, hey, you know, it's out in the open. Let's just talk about it.
Right. Exactly.
And there just needs to be more acceptance of that. Even if you don't necessarily like Dave Chappelle, you don't have to find him funny or anything like that. He's honestly just the points he makes and what he talks about is worth listening to.
Exactly.
So and people like that. Even if you don't like somebody, I strongly recommend people to, instead of reading articles, to actually like listen to Donald Trump. Yeah. And like, I mean, I don't agree with him on really anything. Yeah. At all.
He's a butt. But like, not everything he does is terrible.
But I mean, I think people don't actually listen to people and like they vote with their side. They talk about their side. The J.K. Rowling thing is another example of this.
Right.
And
JK.
I know why. I feel. I understand. I do understand why, and I definitely disagree with her, and I don't really. I dislike her for it. Right. But if I'm being honest, it just kind of gives me an excuse to hate J.K. Rowling more because I already was like frustrated with her with all the fucking weird Twitter reveals of Harry Potter and like the like Albus and Grindelwald's sexual relationship and people disappearing poop. Instead of using the bathrooms, or the one Jewish student, Anthony Goldstein.
I have, like, I gotta say though, like, I have zero problem with any of that, because like what people don't realize is that J.K. Rowling is the goddess of that universe. If she wants to make that universe like fascist all of a sudden, like Hitler was like a headmaster of Hogwarts, she can do that because she wrote this book series, and like you know, all we have to do is just ignore that. Like, but instead of people saying that, well, anything J.K. Rowling says right now, like, it's just what she thinks. But like for me, like my experience with Harry Potter from my childhood, it stays still. Like that's what it is. Nothing's gonna ruin that. But what people are doing is that, well, because what she says doesn't agree with me, I'm gonna change her as a person. And I think that's ridiculous. And I think that's absolutely asinine. Like, sure, some people don't like J.K. Rowling because of her opinion, and you're totally fine. But like hating her for a lot of things that people are hating her for, I think it's just dumb. And I think J.K. Rowling, like what she thinks about trans people, there's a reason she thinks that way. She didn't come out of the womb thinking that I hate trans people. Like, that's not what it is. It's that certain things in her life made her think that way. And unless we sit down and have a dialogue with her, right, instead of shouting her down, she's never gonna change her mind. And number one, I don't really think is like absolutely necessary imperative for her to change her mind. But if you do want to change her mind, you can't cancel her, you can't berate her, you can't hate her, you can't like go on lying and say she's a horrible hag. Like, no, like I'm never gonna hate J.K. Rowling because of the joy she brought me as a kid. Like, without J.K. Rowling, I wouldn't be who I am. It's because when I came to US, I didn't speak a lick of English, and the way I learned English was through Harry Potter audiobooks and reading the books. And that's how I learned. So like, I'll never ever hate her. And even though she says a lot of things I don't agree with, I'm fine. Like, that's her as a person. Like, no one ever said J.K. Rowling is the perfect person in the world. No one ever promised promise that J.K. Rowling doesn't owe anybody anything. She gave us Harry Potter. Like, she's done. She's, like, in my mind, she's like sainthood right now. And if she does some bad things later, she does some bad things later. Don't we all do bad things? Don't we all say stupid shit sometimes?
Yeah. You make a good point. And while I definitely don't agree with the things she said, and I don't agree with her stance at all.
Right?
No, you don't have to at all. One, and it doesn't necessarily make her some evil fascist or anything like that. Exactly. One, and two, because it's not like she went and fucking pulled Bill Cosby or anything like that, or fucking killed a bunch of people or anything like that.
Thank you.
You know, it's disproportionate. So a similar kind of thing happened with just because I said Bill Cosby, now I want to talk about that. But we could get into a whole other discussion about that. Yeah, we should probably think about wrapping this up.
Yeah.
But I do want to say, X, I think with this very first episode, we're on a roll. I think we solved racism and transphobia. I think we did it. Yeah,
I think we did. And it's that we can't solve it. I think the conclusion we draw here is that we can't solve racism. We can just slowly work towards a better future, but like we can't solve it. We can only. Like we're another brick on the path. Like everyone thinks they're gonna build the path, but no, we're the foundation that leads to a better future. And there's never gonna be a perfect future. There's always gonna be something wrong. But every generation is gonna build another brick, and it's gonna go towards something that we think is perfect, but it'll never be. Right?
There is no happily ever after. Not when life moves on.
Exactly. I was just like when I was a kid, I would like to think about like stories after like Little Mermaid, right? It's like Little Mermaid got legs, stopped being a fish, changed her whole identity, and got with the prince, and turns out the prince is a total douche. And like right after they married, like they had a bad falling out, a divorce. The prince cheated. Ariel was like, "Fuck, I want my legs back. Like I shouldn't have given away my voice for like these dumb legs for this dumbass boy." Because she literally met the one prince, and she's like, "This is it. This is the prince I'm gonna fall in love for. One person." Yeah. So, it's funny though. It's we gotta keep moving towards a better future. And there's never gonna be a perfect future.
No, life is not Disney bullshit. It's just not going to work that way.
Even Disney did that shit.
It's a constant. Yeah. It's a constant flow.
Yeah.
That's even Disney said something like he doesn't make. He didn't make movies for children. He made them for the child in all of us, and I think that's very much correct. Like that's a reason why those Disney movies resonate with so many people. But at the same time, we can't pretend that they are reality.
Yeah.
They can teach us things about the world, but they can't. Like media and everything can teach us about the world and make us better people, but it can't dictate our entire lives.
Exactly. It's the expression of art and all that stuff. All right. Well, it's been an hour, so whoever is still watching, thank you so much for watching. So in the end, Wes, you wanna kind of sign us off, like summarize a little bit of a goodbye to everybody?
Yeah. Well, we talked about gender reveal parties, we talked about wildfires, we talked about Bambi and Little Mermaid in the same video, and we solved racism and transphobia. We're on a fucking roll.
Where's the Nobel Peace Prize, bro? Like, come on.
Where's our President Obama Nobel Peace Prize?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that Obama didn't even do anything for the Nobel Peace Prize. He existed. That's why he got the Nobel Peace Prize.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. Don't blame him though. Yeah, Trump's gonna win the Nobel Peace Prize, bro. There's no way around that. There's absolutely no chance he's not gonna win that. Like, I'm sorry, everybody. I don't like Trump, but like the reality of the situation is he's getting that. So yeah. Anyways, cool. Well, thanks everybody for watching this. I hope you guys received the oral pleasure that me and Wes have brought to you. We're both very good oral pleasuring people, exposing people to oral. I'm messing this up, Wes. Sign us up. Quick, save it.
May your next blowjob be fantastic. Bye, everybody.
All right, bye. Have a good one.
Is it off?